Okay, we're live.
Yeah! Woo!
And there's no one else yet in the party.
Yeah.
So do one of you want to stick it on
Wait, did
Facebook?
you change the link though? Because I had to open a second link.
Yeah, this is the second link, I think.
Okay.
So if we
What?
stick
How
that
do I?
link,
Oh, so the link at the very top of the screen. That's it. Hangouts.google.com.
yeah, I think so. Yeah, if you want to stick that on Facebook and then we can get the party started.
I was wondering about this. I was like, I reckon it's just gonna be us. It's gonna be great.
But there were like loads of people before, so we'll wait for the
We
party to
all
begin.
failed on it. Okay, so it's live.
Of course
So,
it is.
welcome everyone to our first official VR education talk on YouTube. Crazy.
Yeah.
So
So
go ahead,
I
Sarah.
am I am Sarah Jones. I am virtual Sarah J on Twitter, and I am what I define myself as an immersive storyteller. So I create stories. I like to put someone not just somewhere else, but in somebody else's shoes. And then I use all of those tools for education as well. So how can we learn from being someone else in a virtual environment? And I do those kinds of things for a range of different subjects, whether it's history or geography or medicine or healthcare or journalism, which is my background. So all those kinds of tools is what I'm interested in. Kim, over to you.
So I'm a bit of a different background. So my background is mainly creative. So I work as a creative and a director, and I've recently found myself falling into the realms of VR and absolutely loving it. I've worked in kids television for many years, and I always found the joy in bringing the educational factor into an entertainment base. So for where I focus on recently is trying to create entertainment and education on the same platform, and so kids actually enjoy learning.
Okay, Scott.
Oh well, fantastic! I'm in New Zealand, so down under. Hi guys, it's Monday morning here. I've been involved in online education now for about 10 years. I helped a friend of mine start an online language learning tool for vocab learning, for rote learning vocab, which is now used all around New Zealand and Australia. And in the last sort of 12 to 18 months, I've been researching how to create an immersive virtual reality based language learning tool called Immerse Me. So I'm very much involved in education now for about a decade, and love the potential for VR to really bring things to life and create much richer experiences for students. So yeah, that's me.
Okay, brilliant. Tell us about your new project because you've just launched a Kickstarter, and Kickstarters are something that Kim is so familiar with another awesome project. So Scott, you go first, and then Kim, you pick it up afterwards.
Oh, Kim, you're the expert. I think you should speak. You should speak first on this. Would you want me to speak? Okay. So, well, we're actually already 20% of the way through our Kickstarter, which is pretty exciting after only 48 hours. So we've got another 8 days to go. We've done quite a short campaign, and the reason is because I'm actually on a plane in 8 days over to Europe to come and film the content for the first version of Immerse Me. So we're going to be taking this little 360 camera on a road show, well not road show, on tour around Europe and a bit of Asia, and we're going to be recording in bars and restaurants and schools and things, and asking people how to and teaching people how to order things in the language. So it's pretty exciting. Yeah, that's my very limited experience of Kickstarter is the last 48 hours. So Kim, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Kickstarter. Kickstarter is a really complicated crowdfunding platform. And I say complicated only for the fact that you think it's as simply as I have an idea, I'm going to put it online, and money's going to come in. Unfortunately, that's not the case. There's the marketing, the PR strategy. It's creating a campaign that people understand and want to put money behind. We did it for the virtual reality, which was successfully funded and is in production at the moment. And we are excited to say at Curioscope that it's going to be going to the public hopefully the next couple weeks or a month, the max. So that's very, 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 very exciting times. So I know what you feel like when going through the realms of doing a Kickstarter, because it was one of the most stressful experiences of my life. But well worth it.
Do you think that for people who have a great idea for virtual reality in education, like Scott has, the Kickstarter is a good way to get going with less kind of funding opportunities for more traditional funds?
I think it has its ups and downsides. What we learned from it quite quickly was be prepared to get your PR and your marketing content completely sound and ready before you hit the live button. If you have that, because what it needs to do is it's all done with algorithms, so it needs to punch above its weight by getting so much percentage of funding after so many hours. And then it'll drop down, and then you have to get the final funding run. But you have to create a media campaign that helps keep people viewing it, to keep the hits on that Kickstarter campaign going, to actually kind of make it viral a bit, so that you actually have the money coming through. So yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a lot more work than you expect, and there's not much talk about how to do it properly. So there's actually, I'll find the link for it. If anyone's in London, I believe in the next couple weeks, they are doing an Indiegogo talk for women about launching Kickstarter campaigns for women in tech.
Brilliant. Do you want to just talk about Curioscope and the work that you've done? Because I think it's a great example of VR in education, particularly with the virtuality, which I know I've been desperate to see since I saw you guys play with it months and months ago. Talk a bit more about it and what people can expect when they can finally get their hands on it.
So I've been working with these lovely group of guys, Ed Barton and Ben Kidd, and they're the co-founders of Curioscope, which is a company that makes virtual reality and AR content for education. And what's really exciting is what they're doing is that they all both have a background in entertainment like I do, and we're taking our skills and our knowledge and our passion that we remember growing up as kids for education and putting it into a virtual reality context. So the first launch they did, which was put on Kickstarter, was the Virtuality, which is a t-shirt where you can put your phone in front of it, and you can see your internal organs. And you can click on it and learn about it, and there's some really fun surprises on the way for that. I can't tell you what it is yet. When it goes live and finally gets published to the App Store, you'll be excited to see it's more than just a internal organ feature. I will post a link to their Indiegogo page so you can know what I'm talking about in a second. And then from off the back of that, they also did a short promo about diving with great white sharks. And that was really fascinating because the twist they took on it was that you dive with great white sharks, but you get to see the internal organs of the sharks and learn a bit about sharks in a non-aggressive way. And we're excited to say that we are hopefully pursuing a bigger version of the sharks with Curioscope. So more about that too soon, hopefully.
And Great White Shark is probably one of the most watched things, isn't it, on video and kind of 360 VR kind of stuff. The Great White Shark is always one of the big things that people use for education.
This one's at 6 million views on YouTube already, and it's in every promo for Samsung Gear, and it's one of the highest rated viewing videos on VRadio at the moment too.
I completely didn't do it justice then, did I? It's awesome. Okay, should we kickstart with some questions? And kind of the first one that we were going to talk about is how VR can give students higher level thinking opportunities and how they can get much more deeper experiences in teaching and in learning. Scott, why do you think this is important, that kind of deeper sense of experiential learning?
Well, I mean, traditionally, you've had a teacher in a classroom, and then you kind of, as the print came out, you started to write stuff down, and students have been able to read about history and read about all this stuff and look at pictures and things like that, and then have to sort of come up with their own ideas and things. But I think it's quite amazing now with virtual reality to be able to sort of stimulate entire experiences and really get the imagination going and have them not just dreaming about it, but just experiencing these kind of ways of representing information, and I think that's going to lead to much more deeper learning and high level thinking when it comes to the subject. And so, yeah, I think it's just the next generation of taking textbooks and putting them into something that's a bit more experiential to stimulate that buzz, I guess, about the subject.
I always talk about my 4-year-old whenever I talk about this kind of question, because my 4-year-old is very much very creative and very much likes her princesses, and is one of those kinds of 4-year-olds, but she has her own headset and it's covered in Cinderella, but when she puts it on, she suddenly changes her whole person, and she just goes a little crazy, and chases dinosaurs or watches the sharks, and suddenly she cares about other things other than Cinderella or Aurora or whoever the favourite princess is at the time, and it really changes her learning. It opens up wider opportunities and wider possibilities, because she can look around and see something that's so different, and when she sees the dinosaurs and they're just there, and especially when you start talking about augmented reality and there's a dinosaur standing next to her, it's really, really exciting. So I do think that it really helps for that kind of thing, kind of capturing the imagination of kids, where so often they're left to just reading in a book or even watching a 2D film. If you place them in a world and a dinosaur's coming towards them, it's really, really exciting. Kim, what experiences have you had?
Yeah, sorry, those are all really great. So basically, what I noticed when kids are interacting with this is that one of the most amazing things when I was going around different classrooms and showing these apps, these kids, I had a little kid, what's your favorite what's your worst topic or in school? And they're all going, oh, one guy's, I hate biology, I hate it, I don't like it, it's all boring, it's all textbooks, and it's all these big words, and I don't want to, I don't find interest in it, and I don't get it, and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, okay, really? And I was really excited that he said that. I said, oh, I think by the end of the day you might change your mind. And then we introduced him to the virtual reality. And then we showed him with using augmented reality where the parts were in his body, as opposed to seeing it in a textbook or on a film. And at the end of it, he wouldn't stop talking to me. He was like, oh, I didn't realize that part was here and this part was here, and I want to know more about that, and can I see it again? And he just wouldn't stop talking. He was excited. He goes, if all my courses and classes were like this, I would I'd understand more, and I'd be able to ask more questions, because I get where they're what they're talking about in the textbooks, because sometimes it's really confusing. It's just too much information on a piece of paper, and they get bored. And this way of learning, it's so immersive that it opens up their imagination, and they absorb the information a lot quicker and in a different way. So I think with the textbook and the virtual reality and augmented reality aspect of it, I think it really enriches their educational experiences.
It's about combining it all, isn't it? It's not just saying, suddenly, we obviously champion virtual reality, but it's not a tool to use by itself. It is about adding that extra dimension to learning and appealing to different learners and different learning styles, I think. I think one thing that always worried me, I was talking to a school in Aberdeenshire, and they'd had the Google Expeditions team out, and I was looking at the pictures they showed them to me of all these kids in the classroom, and they all had their cardboard headsets on, and it was great. My first reaction was, wow, this is brilliant, this is what makes education. But then I started to worry, because I felt that the kids, it was a very insular experience, and they were all looking in different directions. So I raised that question with the teachers and asked them how the kids found it, and they said that it really helped, because they all had that individual experience, but then they could bring it back together in the classroom, and they could talk about it, and they all experienced something different. They all experienced it in a different way. So they had much deeper learning conversations, and those conversations went on a lot longer than they would. Exactly what you said, Kim. They wanted to talk about it, and they wanted to ask whether they'd seen something in the corner over there when their friend was looking somewhere else, and they could all contribute different ideas. So I think that's really where the power is, I think.
Cool.
I agree.
Anything else to contribute, Scott?
Next question.
Okay. I need to get the next question up. Hold on. Okay, where did we want to go next?
Well, I was going to ask a question about ethics and things, and I think that's something that probably people are quite aware of in the education sector, and probably quite a conservative approach, which is good. And so, what are the ethical considerations that we have when we're sort of giving students these immersive experiences, or presenting them with content that can be quite realistic, and what age groups are suitable for various sort of things? I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? I'm just interested to hear. Maybe Kim.
Yeah, I think it comes down, VR is the same thing as anything. You have to be aware of anything you're presenting to kids. VR, especially for the fact that it is so immersive, and you are surrounded by whatever's happening around you, so you have to make sure that it has, if it has a heavy context to it, like it's very emotional, maybe it's based around something that you train the class for a couple weeks, bringing up the topic, and then you experience it. Or it has to be, everything has to be done, I guess, I kept train of thought back. Everything needs to be controlled for the fact that if you are teaching kids, you do have responsibility, but that responsibility is there all the time. So I don't expect teachers to go, oh, here's a device I can give to the kids and I can go off in the corner and do my own thing. It is a controlled factor. Like, everyone should know what they're giving the kids, and they shouldn't be sitting there for 6 hours just learning on one topic. It should be go on and enjoy it, start a conversation about it, and maybe a class structure based on it. I think you're, Sarah, working with a company right now called CoSpaces. What do you think about using that tool? And I know what they're doing. It's really exciting.
CoSpaces is really, really interesting to me at the moment. It's such a great tool because it's so simple and easy to use, and kids can actually use that to then complement what they're doing. So I'm looking at it at the moment and devising some lessons for history education. I don't know anything about history education. I didn't even do my GCSEs in history. But looking at it at historical events, and then getting children to create a world, a virtual world that is reflective of what they've been doing. So basically, CoSpaces, it's like building blocks. You have a flat area in front of you. You change the landscape. You can add in whether it's night or day, or mountains, or the beach, or whatever it might be. And then you have like a flat stage almost in the middle, and on that you can build lots of things. So you have bricks, so you can change the sizes of the bricks. You can build a wall, you could build a house. One of my Apple educator colleagues is currently building his school for parents to collaborate on and walk through the school. So you can use it for lots of different opportunities, really. And you can add in voiceovers, you could add in music, you can add in text hotspots and illustrate it. So it's a really, really nice tool. And what's great about it for the classroom is that you could use that as part of a lesson. So, whether it's for example, the Battle of Hastings, because that's one that CoSpaces have just built for us, is you're talking about it, you're then getting the kids to imagine it and create this virtual world using these building blocks, adding in the people, adding in the text, and then you can watch it on a headset, or you can just watch it on the screen and scroll around. One thing that I really like about it is that you can have someone playing online and it's synced up to your device, so whatever they're building, it's all in real time, which I think adds in quite a good few elements. But one thing that I think is really, really good is that it's just inspiring creativity and imagination, and getting children to see that, it's not scary building this kind of stuff. You don't need programming skills. You're just building blocks within the virtual world, and then viewing it on a device. So it is complementing the classes again. It's not using it as, 6 hours in a headset. You're building it, you're viewing it, you're changing it, and you're a lot more creative, I think, in the environment. So CoSpaces is definitely one, I think, which is really good to use.
That sort of, for me, touches on maybe another part to this discussion that I think, if you're ready to talk about, is I think there's this idea now that we all have these micro experiences, and that's sort of also where VR fits as well. I think it's, like you said before, It's about giving, you know, students a chance to try something that's maybe personalized for them, but come out and then talk about that, and then talk about that experiences and things, and sort of not just use virtual reality as a replacement for like, oh, I'm the teacher and I want to have 20 minutes to go and make myself a cup of coffee. Like, you guys just put yourself in the VR headsets and I'm done. It's like, no, a couple of minutes, like do something on it for a particular reason, jump out, then analyze, you know, talk about that alongside other things that you're doing and other discussions that you're actually having. Is that the experience that you think people should be sort of trying to get to with it when it comes to VR, and just, you know, it's a micro experience, and then it's in line with other elements that are going on in the classroom?
I think so. I mean, I work in higher education, so our experiences are probably a little bit different, but then I do a lot of work for education at different levels. So I think certainly with kind of primary school, secondary school, you are looking at those the micro level experiences, but also, you know, kids, the headsets can be quite heavy. I've usually use this one with my girls, which is the Merge one, which is foam, so I can't break it. And that's really, really good because it's quite lightweight. But even then, it's quite heavy for kids a lot of the time. The Viewmaster one, I think, is really good as well because they can put it down and everything. But then that's not designed for kids. I think the health and safety warning is 7 and over. So I think because of the comfort factor, you don't want kids to be stuck with a headset for much longer than 5 minutes, really. And it's also the attention, because as much as you get that wow moment and you become completely immersed, a child isn't going to be happy to stay in it all day, though mine sometimes does. My kids rock.
No, absolutely. And, you know, and I think, you know, with mobile technology where it's at the moment, I think people, you know, are starting to figure out that that's really going to be the platform where this virtual reality is going to sort of spread quickly, I think. And you know, the likes of Pokemon Go and stuff has a great way of explaining to people how that sort of technology can work, and is working already. So.
Mm-hmm. Are we going to get into the 360 is not VR debate?
Yeah, go on.
It's just mentioning Pokemon Go.
I have to stop the other day. So the way I treat it right now is that 360, I know, and VR is not the same, but at the moment, everyone has access to phones. Not everyone has Google Cardboards or an Oculus hanging out on their desk. So, my computer. So, I think what I think about 360 is exciting is that if you have a smartphone, you can look around or scroll around on your computer screen. It's giving you a bit more than just a static image. So I think right now 360 video is really important. And eventually, if the technology changes and it's there for us to use more, there'll be more virtual reality. Also, I think virtual reality, for me personally, I think it's anywhere that transports you outside of your own personal reality. That, for me, that's virtual.
So I love stealing your lines, Kim. I'm totally going to add that one to my first kiss.
Which one? What did I just say?
I don't know. We'll watch it back and we'll caption it.
I just laugh that you're just getting all these plugs in for virtuality here. You know, you're just trying to merge it into every time you say virtual reality, you're just sort of shortening it a little bit.
But it's such a good product.
Man, you've got some good exposure so far. It's great. Nah.
It's an amazing product, so we need to plug it all.
That right now. I'm putting other stuff. So.
Have we got anyone actually listening? Do we know if anyone's listening to this?
Yeah, there are some people, but we haven't got any questions. If anyone does want to ask anything,
how do I see them?
I don't know.
Like, how do I see if there are people watching?
Headsets and cameras I can deal with, like Google Hangouts I can't.
Oh my gosh, sorry guys, this is our first hangout, so we're just still learning about all this kind of thing. Feel free to ask a question. That'd be great.
Yeah. Is there anything on Facebook?
You expect me to multitask? Anyway,
I know. I'm going
I was going to ask, what is there for education right now? You know, like, what's really, really good for education? I sort of struggled a little bit when I was presenting this to some teachers the other day, and sort of said, well, stuff will come, but I think it's sort of probably going to be a bit behind the gaming and the healthcare and stuff like that.
Yeah, I have a really, really good handout that I can send you, or I can put the link on somewhere. I keep meaning to put it on my website as a downloadable PDF, and it's pretty much just a guide for educators that want to start experiencing VR or 360, to introduce them to certain apps that I think are really good or different experiences. Obviously, there's something called the virtuality that is really good. But gotta plug it. Cure Escape's Great White Shark is an amazing experience. Things like the Discovery VR app, I think, is great for a whole host of educational experiences. Google Expeditions, obviously, and the stuff that there is on Google. But then there's, I mean, for me as more of a storyteller, within the old Verse app, has some incredible experiences, and you can create some really great lessons around those with particularly Clouds Over Sidra, Walking New York, even from the New York Times. You know, there's some really interesting ideas there about art and kind of culture and society. So those ones I think are really, really good. Unimmersive is fantastic, which is a startup. He's based in France, I think. His website is brilliant. It's a downloadable app on the Gear VR, and that houses a lot of educational experiences, and also probably immersive education based in Ireland. They did the Apollo landing experience,
that was cool.
Which has won loads and loads of awards and has done really, really well, and is one of the big educational experiences. That was one of the first ones off the mark, really. So those are the ones I tend to shout about, I think, quite a lot. But Kim, anything else to add?
I know who was it who was just purchased or was given a lot of money from HTC, and they're an educational platform that they're going to take their content now and they're going to make it into educational content for HTC. The HTC invested in them.
Not Eon.
Fair.
Eon do stuff as well, don't they?
Yeah. There's that, and I know BBC is playing a bit more with VR than they ever did before. So they're doing a lot of VR experiences now. BBC's really getting into it, and on their Taster channel and stuff like that, they're looking at pushing it a bit further. So,
fantastic.
Yeah, it's actually. I remember when we started off doing the talking about education, it was like saying education was this scary word that no one wanted to say out loud because you said, "Oh, I'm working in education," like, ooh. And now it's really exciting online. It's like the hot topic. You see it popping up in the forums, and there's articles, and it's all about education for kids and VR, and it's really exciting, and it's kind of funny how it's turned the tables all of a sudden, that it went from this topic we weren't allowed to talk about. It was kind of like, oh, okay, you're working on that, to like, oh, you're doing that. You're doing education for kids. It's really exciting.
Yeah.
And I feel like some way. Oh, sorry.
No, carry on.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, it's interesting. Like, I think VR really is an educational tool, and it's probably in its core form. I think almost every application of VR, I mean, apart from probably gaming and things like that, are sort of forms of education, right? You're teaching people how to do stuff. But so I sort of feel like I reckon education's actually the poster child for VR, and how much of that content is actually kind of labeled education is sort of one thing, because I've seen a market graph of the market size of where the VR is going, and they've only got education as like a tiny little sliver in the corner, but then they've got this massive chunk for like healthcare, and it's like, well, I think most of the stuff that they're going to be doing in healthcare is actually education. So I think we're sort of like just letting other people take a bit of glory here, but I think people probably don't actually realize how much it's going to be educational as a technology.
I certainly think health education is always one of the big things. Certainly a lot of the stuff that I've done with the virtual paramedics has been great. They always have a lot more funding to do things in healthcare, which always helps. But they're also really up for trying new ways of doing things. And there's some great examples of people in the UK that are doing some cool things with health, and further afield as well, and the anatomy stuff and everything like that. and it plays into the whole serious games concept as well. And where I work, we've got the Serious Games Institute, and looking at games for learning and education, and VR obviously naturally fits into that as well. So it's kind of that combination of the two, which is pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, I remember recently watching, which was really interesting, was the live stream for the was it open heart surgery?
Yeah.
Yeah, the one it was done by it was the first ever live broadcast VR experience, and that was really fascinating actually. And they're working on pushing it a bit further. I can't remember the name of that company that did it.
It was
Shafiq,
wasn't it, in London? I can't remember the name. It's just medical VR, isn't it?
I think it was Medical VR. Yeah, that's the name of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And Scott, you've muted yourself.
Sorry. Yep. There we go. I'm back. That's okay. I'm listening.
Yeah.
So Scott, when it comes to your VR experience that you're doing for education, I know you're setting it and going filming. What is it that's really excited you about this, that you're really going to push it a bit further? Because I looked on your Kickstarter page and I thought it was really cool what you're up to. But what's the first thing you're going to do with it?
What's the dream?
Yeah, what's the dream?
Did you actually did you watch my little 360 slam poetry video as well?
Yes, I did.
I
on a
Oh, Sarah, you're missing out.
You come down on speed, like go in front of the camera or something like that.
Oh, I did actually. I kind of walked past. It was really steep up there, and I was like, I was gonna go and ski down, but it was like literally a cliff face off the edge of that. So I was, I thought I'd better not. But I mean, the vision for us, I think, is about really. I mean, the grander vision is about connecting people, and so in some ways, it seems a bit counterintuitive to give people an individual experience that they can't share with other people as a ways of getting them to communicate. But that's really what I want to do with this language learning tool that we're working on at the moment. And I guess my sort of goal is if you can teach people just simple things to help them be able to communicate with anybody around the world. If it's just they just know a little bit of dozens of languages, I think that's where we need to go as a sort of as a society, because it's becoming so multicultural. Like, I'm living here in Auckland, you walk down the street and within 5 minutes you're passing 100 nationalities. And I probably know one or two ways to greet someone in another language, and I'd love to know like 24, you know. And so I think, I think our goal is to help people to come together and to break down those barriers, and not put up walls and like ban people from coming into countries and stuff. Like, that's not how we go ahead in society. So whatever we can do to help give people an experience that kind of demystifies or takes away some of their ignorance, probably, then that's going to make people much more empathetic and embracing of other cultures and other languages. So that's our goal, really.
We got through the whole of this conversation without mentioning the empathy word until now.
Yeah.
That's pretty unusual for a VR conversation.
True.
Yeah, and on that note, then I think we should wrap it up for now.
Cool.
But yeah, let's do this again with questions and structure and everything else in another month or so.
Yeah, nice is testing out the platform, and hopefully we'll get a bunch of people watching next time a bit more, and get a lot of questions in from other people in the VR and education community.
Cool.
Brilliant.
Thanks, guys.
All right. See you soon. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.
See you later.